It started. Yes, it has. Hello, and welcome to episode 4 of Boudica, Flame of the Iceni. Thank you for joining us once again. We're really excited that you've decided to stick with us. And if you are new and this is the first one that you're watching, you should probably go watch the others first of all. It will help. So, but no, thank you very much for joining. We've got the cast waiting, so I'm going to run straight along to let everybody introduce themselves. And then we can get straight into the this episode. Just to make an announcement before we start, it does contain scenes of violence and strong language, so just to make you aware of that in advance. So before we start, I'd like to pass over to Jane Hamlet, please.
Hi, I'm Jane. I play Boudica, and I would like to hand you across to Becky.
Hello, I'm Becky. I'm playing Aeronwen in this episode, and I'd like to hand over to Amy Lou.
Hello, I'm Amy Lou. I'm going to be narrating this episode, and I'd like to hand you over to Emily.
Hello, I will also be narrating this evening, and I shall pass you over to Charlotte.
Hi, I'm Charlotte. I'm going to be playing Andraste this evening and Sabina, and I would like to pass you over to Holly.
Hello, my name is Harley and I am playing Athanasios, and I shall hand you over to Alice.
Hi, I'm Alice and I am playing Merla this evening, and I suppose I'll introduce you to Laura. Hi, I'm Laura and I'm playing Aeronwen this evening, and I would like to pass you over to Curtis.
Hello, I'm Curtis and I'll be playing the role of Dicarius, and I would like to hand you over to Mike.
Hi, I'm Mike. I'm going to be playing the role of Jodat this evening, and I'd like to pass you over to Becky.
I already had it, but I will hand it over to Elric.
Hello, I'm Elric, and I shall be playing Agro and Arvo, and I would like to pass you over to Kylie.
Hello, I'm Kylie, and I will be playing the role of Catus Decianus, and I will hand you over to whoever hasn't gone yet.
Is that everybody? Has everybody had a chance to introduce themselves? Perfect. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. I know that for the last few weeks we've been trying to sort of highlight a few different places that are struggling due to lockdown. And one of those places has been Chester Zoo, and another one has been the Welsh Mountain Zoo. Both of them have got some like GoFundMes that you can go along to. In fact, there's some links in at the bottom of this page and on our website as well, for if you want to go and donate to them via the pages that we've created. All the money goes directly to them. So that would be great if you can. And yeah, but also just at this time as well, I want to say give a massive shout out to anybody who is working or currently not working in the creative and performing arts industries, because of the measures that have been put in place, preventing people from doing any kind of live performance for reasons that make no sense whatsoever to me. So big shout out to you guys. Thank you for everything that you've done so far, for everybody who is involved in creative production and performing arts. Keep going. Because you are so needed. So with that said, I'll hand over to our first narrator, please. Emily.
Boudica, Flame of the Iceni, Episode 4, Truths, Part 1, by Laura J. Harris.
Previously.
Cap of the action during previous episodes, including Aeronwen speaking with Boudica, blaming herself. Boudica tells her all has been taken care of.
The fight between Prasutagus and Malo, resulting in their mortal injuries.
Dicarius, covered in blood, cradling his father's body.
Aeronwen, Merla, and Aeronwen are brought before the dying Prasutagus to hear his decree.
Anticipating the impact for Rome of Prasutagus' death and the impending seriousness of the situation, Catus Decianus sends Sabina to pack up their things.
Jodak announces Aeronwen and Aeronwen as joint queens and leaders of the Iceni people. Merla is to be recognised as the natural daughter of Prasutagus and given the title of princess.
All give praise to Andraste for the queens and the Queen Mother and Regent, Boudica.
Boudica looks up to the sky, watching as the eagles circle Icenium.
I hear you, great goddess. Oh, I hear you.
Snap to black. Titles, Boudica, Flame of the Iceni. Episode, Truths. Snap out, fade in.
Exterior, beyond Jodak's hut, night. Jodak sits in front of a great fire, drinking and staring into the flames. His mouth moves as he questions the gods. Seeing something in the flames before him, Jodak leans in closer, before reeling suddenly back. He jumps up, but cannot tear his gaze from the flames. The fire cracks and sputters, showing him visions that are clearly painful and distressing. His eyes fill with tears as he shakes his head. Finding his cup, he refills it with ale.
The will of the gods be done.
He downs the contents of his cup. Cut 2.
Interior, the Great Hall, morning. A group of Iceni women chant the songs for departing, as slaves hurry back and forth to the head of the Great Hall, carrying water, herbs, flowers, funerary goods, and other dressings. The bodies of both Prasutagus and Malo are laid out on wooden racks. Jodak and Branwen tend to them with care and respect. Branwen seems calm and at peace and so much older than her years. Aeronwen and Boudica stand in silence, watching Jodak and Branwen at work. Merla enters carrying a bucket of water. She makes her way towards Branwen and Jodak, dipping her head in reverence as she passes Boudica. Placing the bucket beside Branwen, she pauses for a moment to take in Prasutagus' body. Branwen leans into Merla, speaking quietly.
You don't need to carry water now.
This I know how to do. This I do not.
Merla hands her a bunch of herbs.
Thank you, Princess Merla.
Boudica visibly bristles at the former use of Merla's new title, but says nothing. Merla gingerly takes a bracelet from her wrist and also hands this to Jodak. Their eyes meet and something passes between them silently. Jodak smiles and studies the bracelet.
It is beautiful.
What is it?
A bracelet from my father. It was a bracelet, a gift to my mother.
Angle on the bracelet. Branwen too seems interested in the delicate piece of jewellery.
It is all I have to honour the memory of a king,
Angle off.
a father, to his people.
Merla's words resound in Branwen's head and seem to shake the room around her, though no one else appears to notice or be affected. Jodak places the bracelet on the fiery rack and bows his head to Merla. She exits the great hall without looking back, even as Branwen sways and tries to steady herself. Jodak catches her arm, questioning her, concerned.
I went a little dizzy.
Here, sit. A cup of water.
Aeronwen sits on a stool and is handed a clay cup of water. Aeronwen looks to her sister, her eyes also full of concern, but Branwen simply waves her hand.
I'm fine, honestly.
Boudica approaches the funeral racks and takes up the bracelet, looking it over with a look of disgusted resentment plastered across her face.
Why do you insist on doing that?
My queen?
You understand me.
Prasutagus named her as his natural-born daughter.
Doesn't mean you have to flaunt it in my face, Jodak.
Forgive me, Your Grace. That was never my intention. Her whole life, she's been a slave, and now she is a princess. That was never going to be an easy transition for anyone.
Not knowing what else to say, Boudica eyes the bracelet once more.
This trinket is not befitting the burial of a king.
Forgive me, Your Grace, but your husband's wishes were that his body be prepared for the prior. He is to be burned according to Roman tradition.
Boudica slams her hands down on the rack.
Better to Catalys's cock!
All around her, Iceni and slaves alike, cease what they are doing. Many make a sign warding off evil at such a blasphemy.
Man! Are we to have nothing of our own? None of our traditions? Are we all to be Roman now?
Jodak raises an eyebrow, which suggests it is not at all his place to question such things, or to venture an answer. Throwing the bracelet into the corner, Boudica turns on her heels and exits the great hall. Aeronwen follows her mother, and as they pass by, every person bows to them. Jodak bows his head and watches them go before moving to retrieve the bracelet. He returns, seating himself next to Bramwyn. He continues to dress and prepare Prasutagus' body as he speaks.
What was it?
Bramwyn looks up at him, sipping at the water.
A vision?
Bramwyn nods.
I think so.
The bracelet?
Bramwyn nods once more. Jodak smiles.
I understand. It has,
A force, an energy.
just so.
What does it mean?
What did you see? What did the gods reveal to you?
Bramwyn draws in a long breath and holds it for a moment before answering.
I saw Merla's bracelet on the wrist of my father, but he was not my father. He was a soldier, a legionary.
Jodak raises his eyebrow.
He was burning. He was dead. I don't know. The flames weren't contained. They spilled out and over, consuming everything. And I wasn't me, not really. I was far away, and another me was watching and weeping for this man.
Bramwyn's voice begins to crack. She strokes Prasutagus' hair as she tries to steady her voice.
And then my father, my beautiful father, held my hand and told me that I had to go back inside, that it was not yet time for me to fly.
Jodak studies Bramwyn for several moments. She plants a loving kiss on Prasutagus' forehead before eyeing the bracelet once more.
What's it mean, Jodak? Are the gods that my father was more a soldier of Rome than he was Iceni?
Jodak shrugs.
Is that what you believe?
I believe he was my father. Imperfect man in an imperfect world, but one who tried his best.
I think so too.
Jodak takes up the bracelet and holds it out towards Bramwyn. She eyes it wearily, as though it will attack at any moment and bombard her with further visions.
You should take this.
But Merla wanted...
It was a gift from your father to her mother. There's something in that, in the unity created between our people and...
the Trinivante.
Perhaps, perhaps not. The messages sent by the gods are rarely clear when we first come to know them.
But how are we to understand them? To know what they mean? And what they want from us?
We have to learn to listen, to feel. You are a messenger of the gods, Bramwyn. They are reaching out to you, speaking to you. They will speak through you one day. I have no doubt of that. Take this. I do not believe that it is destined to burn today.
Inhaling another deep breath, Bramwyn takes the bracelet from Jodak and regards it. When she next speaks, she sounds distant.
Not with this king. Not with this father.
Bramwyn places the bracelet away in her pocket, seemingly unaware of her last outburst. Jodak watches her as she continues to dress and prepare Prasutagus. Feeling his gaze upon her, Bramwyn smiles up at him. He returns her smile but looks momentarily troubled as his mind races to understand. But he knows far better than to try and hurry the deciphering of a message from the gods. Follow 2.
Exterior, beyond the Great Hall, continuous. Aeronwen tells her mother.
Mother. Mother, wait!
As the Queen commands.
You mock me? Today of all days.
Regaining her composure, Boudica instantly regrets the way she has spoken to Aeronwen.
Forgive my frustration, Aeronwen.
I understand. I do. Father deserves a festival of war games befitting a king of the Iceni. But the embargo on our weapons...
I know. The hours he spent bartering with the procurator to gain permission for the use of spears in the fighting circles.
Aeronwen looks out across Icenium, taking in the sights. People busy at their trades, children playing. But everywhere she looks, she notices Roman soldiers idling nearby, sometimes mocking the locals or trying to provoke a fight. She seems to despair. Boudica follows her gaze, then takes her by the hand.
Come, follow me.
Cut 2.
Exterior. Altar of Andraste, woodland clearing, mid-morning. Exposed to the elements, and stone altar is magnificent in its simple elegance. It is decorated with wreaths and fresh offerings of bread, fruit, wine, ale, small pieces of jewellery, and wooden or stone-carved horses, hares, bears, and ravens. Beyond the altar stand 3 impressive statues, the central of which is the great statue of Andraste herself. This sacred stone, Andraste, is flanked by 2 stone horses, a symbol associated with the Iceni people. Boudica and Aeronwen kneel before the altar. Aeronwen offers the goddess a freshly baked loaf. It is still warm. Her stomach grumbles.
You offer food to Andraste on an empty stomach. She will be laughing at you.
Laughing. Do not understand the gods as you and Branwen do.
Andraste is not always making war. Consider, when the day is won and the enemy vanquished, what do?
We celebrate.
Yes. And during the quiet months, when it is not the season for battle, what do?
Everything else.
Exactly. We rest, we prepare, we enjoy life, and we laugh.
That I will ever truly laugh again.
But this is a time of loss. We will smile again, I promise. Bright days follow dark nights.
Aeronwen smiles weakly, accepting her mother's counsel.
No one understands this better than Andraste. She enjoys herself as we do, only she can take on many forms. She might rest in the hollow of a tree, or perhaps she will run free as the wild hare. She may bask in the sunshine in the guise of a young foal, or take the form of the great bear upon herself and fish in the stream. She will play tricks on her divine kin and take mortal lovers to her bed. And therein lies the true delight and danger of the gods.
Danger?
They are so like us, and yet so very different in their divinity. They can be a fickle bunch, always jealous of one another's conquests, always coveting the lovers of another. The true danger lies in protecting your heart. That, above all, is what the gods cannot understand in mortality. To fall for Andraste is to fall for an impossible woman.
Aeronwen smiles, laughing softly.
That's what he called you. Father.
Boudica smiles, but there is a sadness behind her eyes. She proceeds to pour 3 small cups of ceremonial wine from a skin that she carries with her. Placing 1 cup on the altar, she hands the next to Aeronwen and takes the 3rd for herself. Aeronwen looks shocked.
I am not.
You are ready, and you are worthy. And moreover, it is the will of Andraste. So, drink up.
Aeronwen holds the cup for a moment, uncertain.
What is she like?
She is an impossible woman.
Boudica and Aeronwen raise their cups. Boudica incants almost soundlessly. Aeronwen watches. Boudica nods and they both drink. The wine is both strong and laced with herbs and berries bearing magical and medicinal properties. Boudica continues to incant as Aeronwen begins to sway. Aeronwen stares at the Iceni horse statues, which flank the statue of Andraste. As she watches, they begin to move, rearing and bowing and stretching out their stiff stone limbs. In unison, they turn suddenly and gallop down the open stretch between the copse of trees. Laughing, Aeronwen looks around for her mother, but finds herself completely alone. Turning back, she finds that even the great statue of Andraste has disappeared. The ground around Aeronwen begins to quake. The air seems to buzz and vibrate as a thunderous sound grows louder and the great Iceni horse guardians approach once more. They are drawing a great war chariot behind them. The chariot is impressive beyond measure. In the centre of the war chariot, holding the reins, stands a female figure clad in armour. She completely eclipses and dwarfs Aeronwen. An otherworldly light radiates from her, confirming for Aeronwen that which she had already guessed. She is in the presence of the goddess Andraste.
Aeronwen.
Andraste?
Andraste laughs, nodding.
You were expecting another deity, perhaps?
No, of course not.
A silence descends, broken only by the horse's whinnying.
I have never known you to be lost for words, child.
Well, I didn't imagine I would be conversing with the goddess this morning. Apologies.
Andraste laughs. After a moment, Aeronwen joins her, a smile breaking across her face.
You should smile more often, Aeronwen. And in the fullness of time, I know you will. Though I see too few occasions for such mirth in the days to come.
Aeronwen's gaze wanders over to Iceni.
You know what I have done.
Of course.
I feel a sense of something coming close to us, closing in on us at a peril, danger that shakes me to my core.
It is not near, child. It is already upon you.
Andraste's horses rear up and are transformed into the golden eagle standards carried by every Roman legion.
Rome.
Andraste nods and her horses return to their original form.
How might we destroy them?
What if I told you that you could not destroy them? That you never will? That they will crawl like an army of ants over this island, spread like an unstoppable disease?
No! I would tell you no! You have always led us to victory, Andraste. Sometimes the battles are long, yes, many months, years, but we learn from every one and we rise up stronger than before.
But the strength of Rome is like nothing you have ever known.
We have fought them before.
And paid a heavy price indeed.
We are a strong people, Andraste.
And a stubborn people. An impetuous, proud, assuming. I have never suffered a mortal to interrupt me before, twice. But I like you, Aeronwen of the Iceni. You are your mother's daughter.
We cannot simply give in to the demands of Rome.
No, that is not the way of a divine daughter. Besides, the pieces of this game are already in play, in motion, such as even a goddess cannot sway, any more than she might sway the minds of the people bent on revenge.
Revenge?
Pain will come first, and you will be unable to protect those you love most. And the pain of that, the truth, will weigh heavy on you. But I will be with you, Aeronwen, and when you are ready, I will ride beside you into every battle. You face nothing alone. Remember that.
Aeronwen nods. Tears stream her face, though she doesn't know when they began to fall. She has been bombarded with flashes of emotion and future premonitions which already feel like memories. Andraste reaches out to Aeronwen. She cups her face in her hands and kisses the tracks of her tears as she speaks.
Peace now. Peace before the pain. Calm before the storms to come.
That said, Andraste releases Aeronwen and climbs back up on her chariot. She turns her horses, and with an almighty whip and a call, she steers them towards the horizon. Aeronwen calls after her in vain.
Andraste!
Andraste is already miles away, but turns to glance at Aeronwen. For a moment, the all-encompassing light fades enough for Aeronwen to make out the features of a woman she has seen before, Sabina Lupa. Stunned, bombarded, and reeling, Aeronwen stumbles backwards into the soft grass. She stares up at an endless blue sky and passes out. Cut to.
Exterior, beyond the Great Hall, mid-morning. Dicarius sits on a hay bale opposite the entrance to the Great Hall, watching, waiting. He knows Jodak is inside, preparing his father's body for burial. He has questions for the Flamekeeper. Agro, Tyro, Tendrus, Scut, Calticus, and the others mill about nearby, their menacing gaze never long drifting from Dicarius. Whether out of respect for Malo, or as a result of their clash with Jodak, they do not approach him. A clay vessel in hand, Jodak steps out of the Great Hall, but remains near the entrance. He draws in breath after breath, pulling in lungfuls of fresh air as a drowning man might. This seems to reground him. Looking around, Jodak's eyes find Dicarius, who meets his gaze. Something passes silently between them. Dicarius stands, about to make his way towards Jodak, but in that moment the Flamekeeper turns his back and moves to a table furnished with herbs and flowers. He places the clay vessel down and begins selecting what he needs. Undeterred, Dicarius hobbles forward, still injured, but is stopped in his tracks as one of Decianus' slaves, a young man with a shock of blonde hair named Athanasios, who literally runs into him. He is a complete and jittering mess.
Sir. Apologies, sir. Dominus wishes to speak with you.
Dicarius nods. Throwing a final look back in Jodak's direction, he moves off slowly towards Decianus' lodgings. Athanasios follows in his wake. As they pass by, Jodak looks up. He seems to reel, taking in Athanasios' face. It is a face that he has seen before, in the flames. Cut 2.
Exterior, beyond Catus Decianus' roundhouse, moments later. There is a great deal of hustle and bustle before the roundhouse. Decianus' household slaves are scurrying back and forth with chests, ornaments, papers, leather folders, and satchels of belongings, which they load onto the waiting carts. Dicarius watches their progress for a moment as he waits. Athanasios looks nervous to the point of ill, as though he might actually vomit. Dicarius is about to ask him whether he is okay, when Catus Decianus strides into view.
Ah, Dicarius.
Decianus takes in Dicarius' sombre and distracted expression, wanting to put a fatherly arm around him. He does not. He hands Athanasios a clay tablet dismissively.
Athanasius, second these numbers for grain, staples, and ale.
Dominus?
He leaves to carry out the duties as instructed. Dicarius nods to the hustle and bustle around them.
Change of plans.
Walk with me, Dicarius.
Dicarius nods and follows in Decianus' wake. Angle on. Athanasios looking nervous and agitated. Cut 2.
Exterior, beyond the Great Hall, moments later. As Jodak continued to mix and prepare herbal pastes and garlands for the dual funerals of Prasutagus and Malo, Athanasios returns, passing him by once more on his way towards the granary. Looking as though he will burst into tears, the young slave stops 10 feet or so away from Jodak. Looking around, Jodak snatches up a water skin and a small tray of implements, jars, etc., and indicating that one of the novices should continue with the preparations. He makes his way around the bench in pursuit of Athanasios, who moves out of frame.
Intercut with. Agro, Tyro, and Scut are still stood beyond the Great Hall, talking and drinking. Tendrus and Calticus return with several small loaves of freshly baked bread and meat. They set food down on a covered hay bale, and Scut pulls out a leather pouch containing bird bone dice. Tyro moves a barrel into place for them to play at. Scut pours out the dice to begin. Agro seems distant and non-committed, but follows the game. He drinks down a mouthful of ale, then, looking up once more, he spies Merla at a distance. Placing his cup on the hay bale, he takes up a small loaf of bread and dodges around the back of the Great Hall. Once he is out of view, he sprints to catch up with Merla. He opens his mouth to call out to her, then pauses, not knowing how to address her. He closes the gap between them, tries again.
Merla. Princess Merla.
Merla stiffens, but turns on her heels to face him. She waits. He holds the bread out for her.
It's still warm. I thought you might be hungry. I am sorry about your father.
Merla folds her arms across her chest.
You are sorry about my father.
Agro squirms under her gaze.
You are sorry about my father.
I am. And I am.
Agro holds the bread out to her once more.
I am sorry.
What is that?
It's bread.
I can see that it's bread.
It's an offering.
Merla turns her back on Agro and begins to walk away.
Offer it to him yourself.
It's not for him. It's for you.
There is a new fire burning in Merla's eyes as she turns to face Agro. Taking several swift paces, she comes up in front of Agro, slapping him hard across the face before he can even begin to react.
And that is for you. You think you can buy me off with a loaf of bread? Buy my silence.
No.
Then what? My forgiveness.
Merla is seething. She would batter him if she could, and Agro would let her.
Be grateful I do not call down the fury of all the gods upon your head, son of Melo. Now go. Offer that bread up to Andraste and beg her forgiveness. He will not have mine. While ever this heart beats a rhythm, it will be a war drum crying out my disdain for you and all men like you.
Agro remains still, head slightly bowed, accepting her judgment. Merla opens her mouth to speak once again, before changing her mind.
I am sorry for your loss.
Cut to.
Exterior. Another area of Icenium contiguous. Jodak follows in Athanasius's wake, keeping his distance, smiling and nodding at passers-by who are naturally reverential in his presence. Finding a quiet spot a little way off from the main thoroughfare of town, Athanasius pauses, trying, without much success, to pull himself together. Seeing his opportunity, Jodak, head down, ploughs straight ahead, colliding with Athanasius. The slave's leather-wrapped clay tablet and Jodak's tray, including implements, jars and all, clatter to the ground. Jodak also ends up in the dirt before a distraught and fearful Athanasius. Both speak Latin in their conversation, their only common language.
Apologies.
No need for apologies. It was my fault.
Athanasius joins Jodak on the ground. He's already busy rescuing the scattered assortment of bits and pieces.
The Latin is good.
It has to be these days.
Jodak hands Athanasius his tablet and stylus. Athanasius smiles weakly as he accepts them, tears threatening to break at any moment.
But you are not Roman either. Hey, come on now, no one's injured. These herbs are easily replaced. Here, have a drink. It's only water, I'm afraid.
Athanasius takes the skin and uncorks it, trying to steady his breathing. He puts it to his lips and drinks deeply.
Gratitude. You're a priest of sorts, are you not?
Of sorts.
Athanasius hands him the water skin, nodding in turn. Jodak slings the skin over his shoulder once more and climbs to his feet, holding out his hand to the still distracted Athanasius.
What's wrong?
Athanasius looks up at him, shaking his head.
I am not Roman.
Well, that's no crime here, lad.
No, I mean, you asked. I am a slave. I know my place. The gods. I've always been true to the gods.
I'm sure you have.
Honored them.
Jodak nods. Athanasios breaks, tears flowing down his cheeks.
But they took him from me. I loved him.
Jodak places his hand on Athanasios' shoulder.
You won't believe me.
Who?
Dominus.
Decianus?
Athanasios nods slowly, terrified.
Even though I know I speak the truth, and I would speak it willingly, if I say anything at all, Roman law decrees.
The confession of a slave must be only obtained under torture, without exception.
Athanasios sobs, terrified, distraught, and lost. Jodak tries to calm him.
I know that if I say nothing, my soul will never fly to Calamenes in the afterlife. I know I should be a man, but I'm afraid.
Calamenes?
He was always kind to me. You were.
He is dead.
Athanasios nods, piteously.
How?
Athanasios shakes his head and tries to step away, but Jodak holds him still, his hands on the man's face so that their eyes meet.
What happened?
I cannot.
I swear, by the gate Andraste, and by your Athenia, I swear, I will not let them take you or hurt you. Tell me, what happened?
Silence. Athanasios turns away from Jodak.
Where is his body? Tell me that at least.
I don't know. I think she might have moved him. I went back to the river, but...
She?
They. I don't know which. I stayed hidden.
Near the river?
Athanasios nods again as Jodak's mind whirls.
Who took Calamenes' life?
The princess. The queen. I think. The fierce one. The one with fire in her eyes.
Slowly, Jodak draws in a breath, closing his eyes for a moment.
Aeronwen. Take me to the place.
Athanasios protests, holding up the tablet.
Execute your duties, then meet me at the river, or you will rue the day that you were born.
But you said...
If we do not find Calamenes' body, if he is discovered by another, I will not be able to protect you.
Athanasios nods.
Go. Meet me at the riverbank. Be swift. Go!
Athanasios stands and runs off towards the granary. Jodak raises his head to the sky, his eyes upcast.
Great goddess, forgive me.
Slowly he stands and turns his head to the west.
Time is short.
With laboured steps, he makes his way back towards the Great Hall. Cut 2.
Exterior. Outskirts of Icenium town centre, near noon. Dicarius and Catus Decianus stroll together, each familiar but equally ill at ease in each other's company. After some time, Decianus is the first to finally break the silence.
I know that I am not, nor have I ever been, your true father. And yet, I do view you as a sort of son. I hope you know that. You are very dear to me.
As are you to me.
I've not been blessed with children thus far. But I would like to think that I have impressed some positive influence upon your life and education.
I believe you must have.
Holding both of them in their trap. He reaches inside his garments and takes out a letter.
I have received word from Rome, from the Emperor himself.
Catus Decianus hands Dicarius the letter. He scans it as Decianus continues to speak.
Prasutagus' will was laughed out of the Senate House. Not that Emperor Nero cares much for the views of the Senate, but he cares much less for the opinions of a barbarian client king halfway across the world from civilization.
Dicarius looks thoughtful as he returns the letter.
The poor fool made the mistake of thinking that he still retained power in these lands.
He was out there, king, sir.
You need not pretend with me. I know your heart still beats with your people. How could it not? And yet, despite this, you have grown beyond your humble birth. You have distinguished yourself as a Roman soldier. One day, an officer. Perhaps more.
Dicarius gives a single nod, uncomfortable but not wanting to offend Decianus.
When this business is completed and we return to Gaul, I am going to set out a legal document that will see you acknowledged formally as my son.
Dicarius is visibly shocked but recovers well.
I am without words. But I could never allow you to.
Allow me?
You would be ridiculed. Forgive me. It is a great honour, but I would never want your name to be disgraced because of me. Because of your generosity to barbarian, raised half a world away from civilization.
I didn't mean you, Dicarius.
I know.
You have been the son I never had. Why should you not become a citizen of Rome and heir to all such honour that includes? Besides, no one would argue with the word of the Emperor.
The Emperor?
If I deliver upon these terms he has set out here, our family name will be grand indeed. And many powerful men, Seneca included, may just find themselves in my debt. I will see you raised up high, my boy, as you deserve.
Dicarius appears close to tears, biting them back, caught as ever between two worlds.
Fortuna has dealt you many sour blows, but you have never shied away from her hand. You have met each one as a man, with gravitas and courage. Honour is yours, Dicarius, and you deserve to be recognised for all that you are. I want you to accompany Sabina back to Camalodunum and remain there with her until I return. Take a handful of men with you. Men that you trust.
General Paulinus has recalled our century to...
Mona. I know. If Paulinus wishes to carve out his name in the annals with the blood of the Druids, there is little you or I can do to change the outcome. But as procurator, I can order you back to Camelodunum until my return. And by the will of the gods, you may avoid any part in any such action. Take Sabina home, and keep her safe until I return.
The pair have now journeyed to the centre of town. Dicarius stops dead in his tracks, looking beyond Decianus towards the great hall. The bodies of Melo and Prasutagus have been wrapped and prepared, and are laid out on carts drawn by each man's decorated warhorse. Dicarius watches as Boudica and Aeronwen join Branwen, Merla, and a host of other Iceni preparing to follow the carts on their final journeys. Dicarius looks back to Decianus, who encourages him.
Go to them.
Follow too.
Exterior, before the great hall, continuous. Amongst the crowd gathered are the familiar faces of Agro and his lackeys. They glare and bitch as Dicarius approaches. He reaches the dual funeral procession at the same time as Jodak. Aeronwen takes in Dicarius, acknowledging him with a nod. Boudica approaches, stopping him a little way off.
There is blood on you, boy, on your Roman clothes.
Forgive my oversight, Queen Boudica. I merely wish to pay my respects to my father.
Remember, always, son of Melo.
I do.
They have been purified and prepared as our ancestors taught, as befits the Iceni warriors they were. Would you trample 1,000 years of tradition in your haste?
No. I simply...
Wish to defile the memory of your father and our king?
No.
No! You dare answer me!
Mother!
Boudica turns to Aeronwen, glowering.
I do not believe Dicarius meant any disrespect to you or our ways. Grief makes us all strangers to ourselves.
Aeronwen and Boudica exchange a long look. Reluctantly, Boudica nods her head and steps away from Dicarius. Aeronwen indicates that Dicarius approach her. He does.
I don't wish to cause trouble.
And yet it follows you, all the same.
He was my father, Aeronwen. For all his faults, for all our disagreements, he was mine. He died in my arms. It is his blood that stains my clothes.
I lost a father too.
And gained a crown.
Aeronwen nods.
I know of our ancestors will not think you disrespectful. You are still Iceni, I think, under those clothes and beneath this Roman shape you wear. I believe your heart still beats for our lands and our people. But I cannot let you go to the burial grounds. They would not allow it.
Dicarius nods.
I just want to say goodbye.
Aeronwen nods.
We will attend the body of the king and see him delivered to the site of the pyre.
Noise and commotion erupts at the mention of the funeral pyre, but Aeronwen is prepared and continues to speak, raising her voice above the noise of the crowd.
There will be singing and dancing and displays of bravery. Offerings and sacrifices will be made in the name of my father, Prasutagus, king of the Iceni. This was his wish, and though he will not be placed in the sacred burial grounds, these things done will see his soul carried into the afterlife. will guide him to our ancestors in eternity.
Aeronwen looks to her mother, knowing that, despite her great strength, the idea that Prasutagus' soul might be caught wandering, lost in the underworld, is destroying Boudica from the inside out. Aeronwen extends her hand, and eventually Boudica takes it. Aeronwen continues to address her people.
Come. The pyre shall not be lit until the greatest of our warriors have spilt their blood, until the finest gifts have been dedicated, until our voices are raised so high that the heavens answer our thunder with their own.
A great cheer erupts around Aeronwen, whose words even draw a heavy-hearted smile from her mother. Boudica nods once more, and, releasing Aeronwen's hand, she begins to lead the way. Aeronwen leans in to speak to Dicarius.
You may say farewell. Please.
Thank you.
Aeronwen joins the crowd following her father's body. As Bronwyn approaches Dicarius, she becomes disoriented once more and bombarded with images. She rights herself more quickly this time, but we hear Dicarius' voice speaking in her mind. It is a distorted jumble, but we can make it out.
You inspired me.
And
I should never have left.
Bronwyn slips her hand into her pocket, taking out the bracelet, which seems to thrum and glow. As she passes, she takes hold of Dicarius' hand for a moment. He looks down at her, and she smiles sadly before continuing. Merla looks at him and nods. It seems she would speak to him, but she doesn't know where to begin. He simply nods in return. Once they have moved on, Dicarius opens his hand to find a bracelet there. It is Merla's bracelet. Seeing Agro and several others approaching, he pockets the bracelet as he turns toward Melo's body. Agro shoulder barges him, but Jodak is still in the background, watching.
Oi!
The ground is uneven. Must have lost my footing.
Jodak approaches them.
Unsteady as your footing may be, I suggest that you follow your king now, and your queens, and their royal sister.
Agro sneers and moves along, followed by his cronies. When they have gone, Dicarius rounds on Jodak.
I didn't ask for your help.
No, that was my choice.
Choice.
Dicarius goes to Melo's body. Jodak follows him.
I'd like to be alone. I have little time.
Bound for Mona?
Dicarius regards Jodak. He has not mentioned anything about the planned march on Mona to the Flamekeeper.
How do you...
Would Rome truly slaughter priests and children?
I believe Paulinus would.
And would you? Could you?
How can you even ask that? I am the smallest of pieces in an unstoppable machine, Jodak. And But I am not bound for Mona.
Thank the gods.
It is not the gods I have to thank for this kindness.
All action is their will, their plan.
And is it their plan to see their sacred groves reduced to cinders? To sit idly by their faithful are slaughtered, burned and crucified?
They are...
Gods are dead, Jodak.
Dicarius!
If not, then they are beyond cruel and shall be torn from the heavens. I curse the gods.
Dicarius!
As I curse you.
Jodak regards him, hurt and lost.
You knew. Didn't you? In the storehouse you said I should leave after. You stopped yourself then, but you knew. You knew he would die.
It's true. I saw his death in the flames.
And what did the flames show you? Huh? Did they show a son cradling the body of his father as his life bled from him? You could have stopped it.
No, the sight I am granted is limited. I did not know how or when, only that it would happen.
We all die, Jodak. It's no gift to say you know that a man will die.
I am no god, nor do I possess the power to interfere.
What is the point in knowing the future if you are unable to shape it? If you are incapable of...
The duty of the Flamekeeper is to bear witness and to prepare for the consequences of the future revealed within the flames. We carry the burden of foresight so that others will not have to. I am an instrument of the gods, shaped by them and designed for their use. As you do not question your orders, I do not question mine.
Well, I question them all the time.
And yet, you do as you are commanded. We all have our part to play, Dukarius.
Don't call me that.
Dicarius stares at Jodak with a ferocity that is only doused by the sadness in his eyes.
I told you I would like to be alone.
Jodak nods and leaves Dicarius alone with the body of his father. Dicarius bows his head and looks at the bracelet in his hand. He does not watch Jodak go. Cut 2.
Exterior, near the fighting circles, noon. Prasutagus' finely decorated and painted warhorse pulls a funeral cart that bears the body of the king. Boudica follows close behind. Aeronwen and Merla are behind her, and beyond them, the Iceni people, young and old. Aeronwen makes her way through the parting crowd to join her mother at the head of the procession. She takes hold of her mother's hand, interlocking their fingers. Boudica continues to stare ahead, her eyes filling with tears that she will not yet allow to spill. She looks briefly to her daughter and nods. Cut 2.
Exterior, Icenium, the riverbank from above. Afternoon. 2 small groups of slaves are at work measuring and cataloguing the extent of the Iceni territory and documenting the particulars contained therein. Each slave group has a legionary guard in attendance overseeing their progress. A figure approaches the river as a raven cries, flying momentarily into shot. Cut 2.
Exterior, at the riverbank continuous. Jodak hastens towards the riverbank, spying Athanasios, who is waiting, half hidden in the rushes up ahead. He does not call, but hurries to him.
Came.
I said I would.
I feared it might be a trap. They are documenting the value of the land.
Why?
Rome must know the exact value of all its assets.
Jodak eyes him, disguising his anger at this statement. Cut 2.
Exterior, the riverbank, continuous. 1 group of slaves and their overseer is moving ever closer to Jodak and Athanasios' position. Cut 2.
Exterior, at the riverbank, as before, continuous. Athanasius leads Jodak to a fairly secluded area.
This is the spot.
Yes.
Then where is the body?
I told you. I think they must have moved it.
Who? Be precise.
The 2 queens. The one whose name means death, and her mother.
Boudica?
Yes.
Jodak follows the edge of the riverbank, looking for signs, and continues to speak.
And Aeronwen too, you say?
Yes.
What were they doing out here?
I don't know.
Why did Calimenes approach them?
Not them, just her.
Aeronwen was alone.
Yes.
And you were with Calimenes in the grass?
Yes. We wanted to be alone. We heard someone nearby and Calimenes told me to remain hidden. He went to speak with her. Wanted to confront her, I think. He never came back. I heard it all, but but I could do nothing. I feared that they would kill me too.
Makes no sense.
As Athanasius continues to talk, Jodak follows a set of tracks now near the edge of the bank.
I think she was scared. Calamenus was kind. Dominus had promised to grant his manumission when we returned to Gaul. We had been saving to buy my freedom also.
Having tracked the signs back in away from the water's edge to a sunken boggy area, Jodak stops. At the same moment, both Jodak and Athanasius's eyes light on a golden item glittering in the winter sun. It is one of Calamenus's bracelets. Athanasius stifles a sob as he bends to pick it up. Moving swiftly, Jodak takes the only opportunity he might get. Pushing the slave to his knees in the mud, he draws a dagger and slices it cleanly across Athanasius's throat. He holds the convulsing body.
I'm sorry.
Laying Athanasius's body down in front of him, chanting a prayer of safe passage even as he does, Jodak wipes the dagger in a fold of his cloth and sheaths it once more. Suddenly, aware of a change in his surroundings, Jodak looks up to find that he is no longer alone. There is a slave on the opposite side of the bog, staring in wide-eyed terror at the flamekeeper. Jodak begins to stand, slowly so as not to frighten the man. He raises his finger to his lips, but it is too late. The slave shouts,
Here, help!
Jodak, now on his feet, turns to run, but is stopped short by the pommel of a gladius connecting with his face. Snap to black. Cut to.
Exterior. The fighting circles. Afternoon. The innermost fighting circle is being transformed and prepared. Prasutagus' funeral pyre now occupies a central position. The funerary board containing his body has been placed before the pyre for the time being. Boudica stands between the pyre and Prasutagus' body, facing her people. The Iceni are gathered to bid farewell to their king in a ceremony that is alien to all of them. Boudica remains stone, even as she steps forward, ready to receive the offerings of her people and commit them to the pyre with the body of her husband. Aeronwen approaches and offers a golden necklace containing an onyx stone. She kisses the stone and hands it to her mother, who bows her head and places the necklace around her husband's wrapped shoulders. Boudica indicates that Aeronwen join her. She does, taking a position next to her mother. Branwen and Merla step forward next to offer their gifts. Branwen stands before Aeronwen and Merla before Boudica. Boudica will not even look at Merla.
This is not right.
None of this is right.
I endure this dishonour only the loyalty I bear to the memory of my husband.
I know that my father would appreciate your kindness, even if he did not always reciprocate the loyalty you would show him.
Boudica is shocked by this, almost as shocked as Merla herself, who, nevertheless, stands resolute.
Father is a kind man, a just king who, above all, wanted peace and unity for our people.
Branwen hands Aeronwen a gift to be placed with her father.
Pray that all the gods watch over you and keep you safe.
Boudica receives a small horse carved from Merla. Taking hold of the girl's wrist and pulling her in close to whisper to her.
I pray that all the gods watch over you and keep you safe, that you may live long enough to know the shame of a disloyal husband.
If I should prove so poor a wife that my husband might stray, I will know to be kind, even to the seed of a disloyal union, like my father, and honest, like my mother.
A slave.
A woman, absent choice.
Aeronwen steps in between Merla and Boudica.
Not here. Not now.
Merla glares at Aeronwen and then moves on. Following, Branwen moves to stand next to her at the edge of the fighting circle. People continue to pay tribute to Prasutagus, making their offerings via Boudica and Aeronwen. Intercut with.
As they reach the edge of the fighting circle, Merla continues to walk. Branwen gently takes hold of her arm.
Merla,
She's a proud woman, your mother.
you seem to be the focus of her anger, and for that, I'm sorry. But I don't believe you're truly the cause.
Merla considers this before nodding.
I said my goodbyes. I do not wish to see his body burned.
Neither do I.
You will see worse in the future flames if you continue along the path of a flame dreamer.
In that moment, Branwen questions whether her half-sister also sees vision in the flames. She releases her arm, but questions her silently. Merla gives nothing away, leaving the circle and heading towards her home. Intercut with.
As Merla leaves, Decianus arrives with a retinue of armed legionaries in tow. They remain at a respectable distance for the time being, simply observing. Boudica and Aeronwen exchange a look, not liking what they see. Cut 2.
Exterior, beyond Catus Decianus's roundhouse, afternoon. Dicarius approaches the roundhouse that Decianus and Sabina have been staying in. Everything has been expertly packed, ready for the journey back to Camelodunum. He spots Fausto, Epona, and Carbo standing with their horses. Beyond them are the wagons that will transport the goods of Catus Decianus. At the head of these wagons is the shuttered cart in which Decianus, Sabina, and Calamenes travelled to Icenium. It will now transport Sabina alone. Decurion Arvo appears from beyond the roundhouse, and seeing Dicarius, moves to greet him. Initially, Dicarius salutes, then Arvo opens his arms, embracing Dicarius.
I met your father only once, but I liked him.
Dicarius nods.
We ought to return to Camelodunum.
Dicarius nods.
Decianus' orders are to pack up his household, protect Sabina until his arrival, and make arrangements for their return to Gaul.
Protect her from what?
I don't know.
We'll see you safely back to town before we ride out to join the 20th.
A heavy silence presses upon them. They each know what that will mean. Arvo shakes hands with Dicarius once more, then moves off to oversee the progress. Dicarius spies Fausto, Carbo, and Epona. He nods and heads towards the roundhouse, just as Sabina exits, busily overseeing the last few items are packed. The pair almost collide.
Dicarius!
Sabina.
Don't do that. I'm not a slave. Do you know what's going on?
No more than you.
I'm sorry. About Melo.
Dicarius nods.
We should get going. When the darkness comes, it comes fast.
Sabina nods. Dicarius escorts her to the shuttered cart that will be her transport. She climbs in, and the pair exchange a final look. Dicarius shuts the door and looks to Arvo, who is now mounted, along with the rest of the contingent. Moving to his horse, Dicarius casts a final look towards the town, feeling that there is nothing left to tie him to Icenium. Climbing up onto his horse, he turns away from the land he once called home. Fade to black. The end.
Yay! Well done, everybody. Very well done. That was really good. Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, feel free to unmute yourself if you want to. Thank you so much for that. Wow, that seemed to just fly by.
Yeah.
Oh, that was really, really good. Thank you. I suppose the best way to describe that episode is the calm before the storm of what is to come next. Obviously kind of things picked up pace a little bit in episode 3. So this feels like a nice little lull, but I don't know, with a heavy-handed sense of impending
Doom.
I was rapidly searching my brain for a word that wasn't doom.
But it is doom.
But yes, no, thank you, everybody. Thank you to all of you again. You are fabulous. And particular thanks as well to Elric for taking on aggro last minute and bring him so beautifully to life this evening. Well done, everybody. Thank you very much. If you have been watching along and you want to leave any feedback, if you want to leave any comments, please feel free to do so. And yes, if you can, tune in again next week. And yeah, just thank you for continuing to support us. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yes, it's ended. There you
Okay.
go.